Alright, we have got patch 5.05 notes. We're only about 50 minutes into the scheduled maintenance. Presumably it will last another 4 hours, if I'm correct. And I am saying this at 1:50 in the morning Eastern time. But let's go ahead and jump into these notes. As a result of recent balance changes, the actions required to complete Return of the Monk have been adjusted. I assume that was a bug or something, or maybe they nerfed a monster or something. Doesn't seem important. They have added the Dungeons of Lygia. I probably mispronounced that. But these are for the new Zonyerskin 8-man treasure maps, level 80. This is probably what I'll be doing. My static isn't going for Savage until Friday, Saturday. So in the meantime, I'll be checking this out and doing the new crafts. New craftable items have been added to the company workshop. Subaquatic voyage stuff. I know nothing about this system, so I'm just going to gloss over it instead of acting like I know. New housing furnishings, new orchestrion rules. Pve Actions and Traits have been adjusted as follows. Nice, Monk gets a extension to all of its forms. Mantra radius increased. That's really useful because I'm almost finished leveling my Monk to 80, and like you have to be standing close enough to the main tank that pretty much any cleaving or AoE tank buster is going to hit you if you stand there at the wrong time. And it just felt impossible to really hit all of your party with Mantra unless you specifically told them to stack at this time for Mantra, which is it was too small. So hopefully this doubled radius will be better. That still seems kind of small, to be honest, but 15 is obviously better than 7. Form shift, curl form bonus extends grease lightning has been added. That's interesting. So if you change to curl form, it just extends your grease lightning, so you don't have to be hitting something. That's interesting. I'm not sure if I'm understanding it correctly. The additional effect opens off 5 chakra outside of combat has been added. That's great, so you don't have to charge 5 individual charges. You can just press your meditation once, and you'll be ready to use your next forbidden chakra. I can't believe that in my brain, and it was listed right here too. Okay, but back to that. So you don't have to charge 5 times to get your next forbidden chakra. You can just use it once outside of combat. That's a great change, great quality of life change. Riddle of Earth. Earth's reply bonus now nullifies all action direction requirements. So that means you don't have to hit your positionals. That's another useful thing, because even though we have 2 charges of True North now, it's not enough for a lot of fights, to be honest. It's just so hard to keep your positionals up while you're also doing mechanics that make you rotate around the boss and etc. And so you can try to save your True North for the best time, but it's really hard because Monk has so many positionals. But at the same time, that kind of lowers the skill ceiling a bit, and maybe I'm just completely misunderstanding this. Moving on, Riddle of Fire, the effect increases weapon skill recast time by 15% has been removed, and the damage increase has been reduced from 30 to 25%. That's an interesting change. This will probably change the opener around a bit, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm not high in Theory Craft or anything. Forbidden Chakra, the condition can only be executed while in combat has been added, and same for Enlightenment. It's weird, unless you had a target, you couldn't use this anyways. I don't know what exactly this change is meant to be. I think the same for Enlightenment. I think you have to target something. So maybe you have to use another GCD or quote-unquote enter combat before you can use them. I wonder what that's for. And again, I'm just about to hit 80 on Monk, so there are going to be things I don't understand about it. I haven't mained it since Heaven's Word. Rogue Ninja, their Gust Slash got a 50 potency increase. That tells me that their numbers are right around where Square Enix wants them, and they just wanted to nudge it up a tiny bit. Samurai, I've only played 1 level of. It's at 71 right now. So I've only played the new kit a little bit. Mikio Shisui, recast time reduced from 60 to 55 seconds. Meditate, effect duration increased from 30 to 45 seconds. That's interesting that they made Meditate last even longer. Tsubame Geishi, cast time has been made instant. Same for the upgraded 3 Sen spenders. Shoha potency's been changed to be much higher at the lower tiers at least, which is good. A lot of people are complaining that Shoha is a useless ability, but I think that if you really want to play Samurai at the peak level, that it should be very difficult. But this still makes it a little bit easier to have much more potency at the lower tiers. Just for getting 2 charges of Shoha, you will get 300 potency as opposed to 100, so that's much better. Reassemble, recast time reduced from 60 to 55 seconds. I guess this is because Machinist has this really strange thing right now with its GCD where there are 2 specific breakpoints that you want, because otherwise your drill won't line up with Reassemble, if I'm understanding this correctly. But, you know, we'll see when all the balanced players and top theory crafters come out with their revised information for how to play everything. But it looks like Machinist is right where they want it. All they did was make Reassemble slightly faster to use, presumably so that skill speed is not so bad on Machinist. Arcanist and Summoner had some changes. The recast time on their summons has been reduced to 3 seconds. Less delay for their dots to attach, at least for the bio dots. Same for Tri-Disaster, the damage over time should apply faster. And that's good because you often have to delay things like your Bane until the dot actually appears on the target's bar. And it just felt kind of off, but there are a lot of things in the game that, you know, you kind of have to wait for this extra bit of time to pass before you can do it, or you'll get a reduced effect. Looks like Red Mage has had a lot of mana costs reduced. Right now, if Red Mages have to res a lot, then they run into a lot of trouble. So I guess it's good that they had a lot of their MP costs reduced. They can last a little bit longer. They can throw out a few more Resurrects. They don't lose their quote-unquote battery so fast. Enchanted Reprise potency increased to 250. Manage requirement reduced to 5 and 5. So it looks like they're just giving Red Mage a bit of a buff. Scholar Art of War got a 10 potency increase. And Art of War is instant, but you have to be in melee range, so that's kind of the caveat there. Royal Mastery effect change from increase the potency of Ruin 2 to 160 to increases the potency of Ruin 2 and Art of War to 160. So that's just to compensate for the upgrade there. And then Sakura is reduced to 2 seconds to cast, so now you can squeeze that off GCD in between Sakura and whatever your next GCD will be. Astrologian got a lot of changes. I do not like where Astrologian is at right now, but I don't really know enough about the job and playing it at a high level to really understand the full impact of these changes. But it's good to see that they're changing a lot of things. Looks like a lot of recast times are shortened. Gravity has had its potency increased. Gravity is weird, it's their AoE ability. It's got the lowest potency, or at least had the lowest potency, I'm not sure about now. Out of all of the healer spells, it had 2.5 second cast, whereas Scholar has instant. And White Mage also has 2.5 second cast, I believe. This is good that they have reduced cast time though, because the potency is lower, and the one advantage that I could understand Gravity having is that you don't have to be standing next to the mobs like you do with Holy and Art of War in order to damage them. And it just seemed too low and too much MP for that. And they did change the MP cost a while back to make it a little bit lower. And now we're also seeing potency and cast time increase, or potency and cast time buffs. Helios, which is their Medica style spell, cast time reduced. So it looks like a lot of their spells are reduced so that they can fit more of these off global cooldowns in, which they're really bloated with off global cooldowns as of recording this, minus whatever other changes we might see. Barriers damage nullification reduced. Healing potency increased on aspected Helios. Recast speed on light speed has been reduced to 90 seconds. That's a really big cooldown, and that's a really big buff for them. Hyper light speed reduces. Okay, so that's what changes it to 90 seconds then. Celestial Opposition is now half the cooldown it was. It heals twice as big. And the damage nullification was reduced a little bit. It's got a bigger regen effect, and the radius has been increased. So that's a really big cooldown increase, a really big cooldown effect increase for Astrologian. Horoscope healing potency was increased, and a duration increase. Unfortunately, I don't know the kit past level 71 or so, so a lot of this is foreign to me. Divination Recast time was reduced, so this is their party-wide damage buff, and the amount is much higher now. Instead of 246, it's 456, so if you don't get the 3 different dots that you need, then you still get a decent raid-wide buff. I have thoughts on Astrologian, but until I'm level 80, I'll keep them to myself. They completely reworked sleeve draw, it looks like, just to make, well, it looks like it just makes it so that it's easier to cast back-to-back without pressing so many off GCDs. So that clears up the bloat a little bit. Celestial Intersection, healing potency has been increased, barrier nullification reduced, and Regent potency almost doubled. New actions have been added, Hagakure, and Energy Drain. So they are giving Scholars their Energy Drain back. Okay, I was right. Hagakure was the ability that would convert your Sen into Kenki Gauge. They are giving it back to Samurai in addition to the plus 50 Kenki cooldown that they've been given. That is how I understand this, so we'll have to see. Are there really no nerfs to White Mage? Wow. I thought at the very least they would get some increased MP costs. Anyways, good that Scholars get their energy drain back. All the top tier Scholars I know, their main complaint about the job right now was that they didn't have an ether flow dump, and energy drain will be exactly that, so that's good. Healing actions performed outside of combat no longer build the limit gauge. They shouldn't. That's, wonder why that was happening. Eden's Gate Savage has been added. Players can only register via the raid finder. You have to be level 80, of course, and the item level requirements are 440, 445, and then 450 for the last two. 8-player content, of course. 90 minutes to complete the first 3, 120 to complete the 4th. This tells me that the 4th probably has a second boss. Maybe another form of Titan, maybe another boss altogether. But I'm just guessing. The quest is in Amarang. You speak to Luri at 2616. After completing the next piece of the puzzle, which is, I believe, the final quest from normal Eden. A treasure coffer will appear containing an Eden Grace coffer. Using this item transforms it into gear corresponding to the user's current job. In addition, the coffers that appear upon completing Sepulchre Savage yield weapons. Treasure coffers do not yield armor and accessories. So instead, each duty will drop a limited number of these coffers, I guess. So like the first one will probably drop accessory and belt coffers, maybe a couple other pieces. Interesting, it's good that they're removing the RNG from getting your weekly loot. But we'll have to see how exactly it works. But it looks just like, you know, the coffers that they give you as quest rewards as you're leveling. You can use it, you get a ring or a bracelet or whatever for whatever job you're playing. Well, now they're doing that with the Savage Raid gear too. Of course, replaying a Savage will reduce the number of drops that players get. You'll also get a token from each Savage clear, the first one of each week anyways, which can be exchanged for gear of your choosing. Yep, you'll get one per area each week upon completing said area the first time. You can speak with Gulgul and Amarang, or Yal and Yomor, to exchange the Apocrypha for the Savage corresponding gear. So we've got the 3 upgrades here for, I mean, you can see the weapons come from Sepulchre along with the Paladin weapons. It's weird that these are separated, but I guess they want to point out that it's 5 and 3 instead of 8 for everybody else. This looks more or less like the standard formula as far as I understand it. Eden 3 gives the, I believe this is the weapon and left side gear, and then this is your belt and right side gear. And these are the upgrades, of course, for the new Tombstone. Following duties have been added to the Raid Finder. X-Game by Trust NPCs has been increased. That's a good one. I've done maybe 2 or 3 Trust runs. I've experimented with it a bit. I thought about doing a video. But what I've done is just set up macros that spam AoEs, and I'll run to a pack, I'll press that macro, and then I'll go fold laundry or something, and then come back, because it's just so boring. To level them, I mean, that's 6 dungeons per NPC. I did the math, I forget what it is, but it's an absurd. It's like 100 dungeons if you want to get them all to level 80. But we'll talk more about that another time. New elite marks have been added, so right now we've only got 3 zones that S ranks can spawn in. So now there should be twice as many S ranks that can spawn. I haven't been doing much hunting yet since Shadowbringers came in, but I will be moving to that as the flow of content slows down between patches. Allegan Tombstones of Phantasmagoria have been added. These are the new weekly capped at 450 per week, and you have to be level 80 of course to get them. And you can spend them with Amark and Yomor, and you can talk to Shi Tatch to enhance gear received in exchange for Phantasmagoria. I'm not sure what exactly that means, but we'll see. Patch is only so far away. Of course, these are the amounts of tombstones you'll get for each of these duties. So all the roulettes have had Phantasmagoria added. Looks like it will be easy to cap, just as the Genesis tombstones were in 4.4 and 4.5. PvP actions have been adjusted. I have not done any PvP since Shadowbringers came out, so I'm just going to move past that. Same with the Feast. New items have been added. I wonder if these are the new Savages, new Savage gears. They look neat. Just to really quickly talk about it, I thought that the High Allegan and the Dreadworm sets were some of the coolest gear they've ever added to the game. I've kind of felt like the raid gear, both normal and Savage, since then just hasn't quite been awesome to me. But I really like the color and the theme of this set, and once we see them in game, I'll really know whether I'm into them or not. But I'm liking this machinist set right here, especially the gun. It looks a little bit more hefty. A lot of the guns seem a little small and pathetic right now. Just neat looking gear. I like the tabards. New recipes have been added, of course, so it looks like new glamour clothes and whatnot. New master recipes have been added. This is one of the things I'll be working on first when the patch comes out, is getting those new 8 master books. New mounts have been added. We can see a flying bed here. New minions have been added. It's a little Ankthorn, whatever his name is, the second boss from, or the third boss from the second dungeon, Dawn Meg. New achievements and titles have been added. Another summoning bell has been added to the Crystarium. That's good, it was a little bit of a thick area. And then we've got the resolved issues finally, which means we are reaching the end of the patch notes. An issue with the Scholar job quest, wherein it required that Lustrate be used out of combat, which is not possible. I'm assuming because you can't ether flow out of combat, so that's a pretty big oversight. Good that they fixed it. An issue where certain machinist job quests could not be completed after reaching 76 when you get Air Anchor. I assume the quest required you to use Hot Shot. An issue in the Fate attack on Hybrid, where under certain conditions more than one Bertram would appear. Bertram is the NPC who, after beating this fate, will sell you the Orchestrion roll. So that's an interesting bug. An issue where changing the appearance of Garuda Egg Eye to Carbuncle would cause the effects for Windblade to be displayed incorrectly. An issue wherein the tooltips for Summoner, Pve Action, Tri-Disaster were incorrect. Only the tooltip has changed, not the action itself. An issue wherein the information regarding potency in the tooltips for the Monk Pve Action Tornado Kick was incorrect. Once again, only the information regarding potency has been corrected, no changes to the action itself. An issue wherein the tooltips for the White Mage PvP Action Temperance were incorrect. An issue where under certain conditions completing duties with more than one party member who have not yet to complete it did not grant second chances for Wondrous Tales. An issue in Deep Dungeon where players' HP and attack power were incorrect. An issue where under some conditions Vieira hairstyles were no longer displayed after changing them with the aesthetician. That sounds kind of funny. An issue where the recommended number of players was displayed incorrectly for time-worn glider skin maps. And an issue where the effect for reuse was not displayed in the crafting menu. Other various issues have also been addressed. So I'm most excited about, if we put aside the new content, which is the Master Recipes, Savage, the Treasure Map Dungeon. What I'm most excited about is seeing how these changes to Astrologian and Monk are going to pan out. Looks like Monk really got a lot of the quality of life things that it was just lacking a little bit so far in Shadowbringers. And, Astrologian is... it's quite clear that that's really causing a problem amongst the main healer players. There's still players maining it who love the job, but there's been a lot of criticism hurled at this job lately, and I'm curious to see if the recent changes to Astrologian are going to satiate the hardcore Astrologian players, or if there's still a lot of work to be done. But alright, thank you guys so much for joining me. The patch should be out in the next few hours. I'd like to be doing some content on Savage later this week, but I'll be starting it myself Friday. So that's the earliest you'll hear anything about it from me. I hope you have a great week, and good luck in those Savage raids.